What's up, everyone? This is Jalen Phillips of the Miami Dolphins, and you're watching South Beach Sports. Make sure to subscribe and turn on post notifications to never miss a video. Click the links down below to stay connected on our other platforms. Fins up, baby.
What's going on, everyone? This is Luke from South Beach Sports, and welcome back to another video. In today's video, we're going to talk about if the Miami Dolphins should move on from general manager Chris Grier. In yesterday's video, we talked about if the Dolphins should fire head coach Brian Flores, and today we are going to look at the decision maker in Chris Grier. Like always, make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on that post notification bell so you do not miss a single video. And also go ahead and comment down below your thoughts on Chris Grier and if you think the Dolphins should move on from him. So Chris Grier has been a member of the Miami Dolphins for quite some time. He started off with the Dolphins as an area scout from 2000 to 2002. He then moved on to be a national scout and the assistant director of college scouting for the Dolphins from 2003 to 2007. He was then the director of college scouting for the Dolphins from 2007 to 2015, and he has been the general manager for the Fins ever since 2016. But he really didn't have full control of what happens in that Dolphins front office until 2019 when the Dolphins let go of Mike Tannenbaum. As the Dolphins have gone off to a very underwhelming 1-4 start to the season, there have been a lot of people, including myself, calling for the firing of Chris Grier. He's put together some solid rosters and made some solid decisions, but he's made some very untimely decisions and left one position group in very poor shape, which I'll get into a little later. That is concerning and really makes you question whether he's the right guy for the job. I want to first get into the 3 drafts that Chris Grier has led as the unquestioned decision maker of that Dolphins front office. Let's first get into the 2019 draft, which was actually pretty solid. In round 1, the Dolphins took defensive lineman Christian Wilkins. And even though Wilkins hasn't been a star or superstar type player, he's still been very solid. He's starting to come out in year 3, and I overall thought it was a solid pick. I never really expected Wilkins to blossom to a star. I saw Wilkins as more of a foundational starter, rotational type player, and I think the Dolphins got exactly that in round 1. In round 3, the Dolphins selected Michael Dieter, an offensive lineman from Wisconsin. And Dieter really struggled in his first couple seasons, but he's starting to come into his own in his 3rd season. And so far at center, he's looked pretty decent. He's arguably been the Dolphins' best offensive lineman, which isn't saying much, but he's looked pretty decent nonetheless. In round 5, which was without doubt the best pick of the draft, the Dolphins selected Andrew Van Ginkel, linebacker from Wisconsin, and Van Ginkel was an absolute steal in the draft. I said that when the pick was made, and he's looked really good so far. He's one of the true playmakers of that Dolphins defense. In round 6, the Dolphins selected Isaiah Prince, an offensive tackle from Ohio State. The Dolphins let go of Prince in 2019, so not really much to say about him. And in round 7, the Dolphins had 2 picks. They selected Chandler Cox, a running back / fullback from Auburn. He was waived a little while ago, and they selected Myles Gaskins, who's obviously the starting running back for the Dolphins now. So it was overall a very solid draft for Grier and the Dolphins. The real issues that a lot of people have about Grier come with the 2020 draft, which presented the Dolphins with 5 picks in these first 2 rounds and 3 picks in the first round. This was a prime opportunity for the Dolphins to select multiple players who would be the foundational building blocks of the Dolphins' long-term future. And this draft, at least through a little over a season, has not turned out that way whatsoever. The Dolphins, with the 5th overall pick, selected Tua Tagovailoa out of Alabama, and the case is still out on Tagovailoa. He's dealt with his injuries. He's set to return this week against Jacksonville, so I imagine that the Dolphins will give Tagovailoa the rest of the season to prove himself as a franchise quarterback for the Dolphins. But there are a lot of people criticizing Grier for making this pick when Justin Herbert was available, and Herbert's obviously doing his thing in Los Angeles right now. He is without a doubt one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL and an MVP candidate in only year 2. So Grier has dealt with a lot of criticism for selecting Tagovailoa and not Herbert. With the 18th pick in the 2020 draft, the Dolphins selected Austin Jackson, an offensive tackle from USC, and from day 1, this pick was pretty questionable. He was seen as a long-term project and someone who could project as a solid tackle in the NFL someday, but not necessarily a day one plug-and-play tackle, which is what the Dolphins needed, and in the way in which the Dolphins ended up using him. And even though Jackson got off to a pretty decent start in his career, it's been an absolute turnstile since then. Especially in year 2, he's struggled mightily as a left tackle so far this season. In the Dolphins' Week 5 game against the Buccaneers, the Dolphins tried to play Austin Jackson at left guard, and while Jackson looked better, he still didn't look great. His balance is really bad, his footwork is sloppy, his hand placement is again sloppy, and it's really looking like that, like the 18th pick of that 2020 draft was an absolute bust. With the 30th pick in the 2020 NFL Draft, the Dolphins selected Noah Igbenogany, a cornerback from Auburn, and this pick has been even more of a bust than Austin Jackson. Igbenogany was drafted as a project-type player. He was the youngest player drafted in the first round, I believe, so he was deemed as someone the Dolphins could develop behind Xavier Howard and Byron Jones, and yes, he is a project, but the production thus far has been non-existent. Igbenogany played some in his rookie season. He looked decent at times. He looked lackluster more so often. And in year 2, Igbenogany has seemed to have taken a step back. He has been a healthy scratch in some games, and it's not the type of production you would expect from someone who you selected in the first round. Yes, there's been some promise from the rest of the 2020 NFL Draft for the Dolphins. I really like the selections of Raekwon Davis and Brandon Jones. I think they're going to be key players for the Dolphins in the long-term future, but that first round, at least right now, looks absolutely awful, and missing on all 3 of your first-round picks in one draft is definitely a fireable offense from your GM. The early returns on the 2021 NFL Draft from the Dolphins have been solid. I absolutely loved the selection of Javon Holland in the second round, the safety from Oregon. He's looked very, very good so far, and his playing time keeps on increasing. I also think Liam Eichenberg, the 42nd overall pick, left tackle from Notre Dame, will end up being the long-term left tackle for the Dolphins. And the early returns for the Dolphins' first-round picks have also been promising. Yes, there are some drop concerns with Jalen Waddle, but he's such an explosive and unbelievable player that I think the Dolphins will not end up regretting selecting him with the 6th overall pick, and Jalen Phillips has gotten better in every single game. One area of Chris Grier's decision-making that a lot of people have criticized has been his decision to select Tagovailoa instead of Justin Herbert in the 2020 NFL Draft with the 5th overall pick. And while yes, it's valid, I'm not going to give Grier that much slack, considering if you replayed the entire 2020 draft over again, the Bengals probably would have selected Herbert at number 1, and the Dolphins would have been left with Tua to select at number 5 yet again. So I'm not going to criticize Grier for that too much. But the one area of Chris Grier's decision making and general manager work that I am going to criticize him for is his inability to put together a competent offensive line. Chris Grier, in his 3 off seasons as the Dolphins' lead decision maker, has failed to put together an offensive line that would protect their young quarterback in Tagovailoa, and an offensive line that is just solid. And it's not for lack of trying. He has spent countless draft picks over the past 3 NFL drafts in the attempt to fix the Dolphins' offensive line, and it just hasn't worked out. Yes, there's been some players like Michael Dieter and Robert Hunt who have shown promise, but the offensive line just isn't working. One area that I'm especially going to criticize Grier for is the lack of free agency additions for that offensive line. He's really stuck to the draft, which is fine, but it's important for your offensive line to have a mix of young talent and experienced veterans, because those veterans are the players that are going to help teach your young, experienced offensive linemen. Another criticism of Chris Grier that I'm going to make is that he's really failed in capitalizing off the Minkah Fitzpatrick and Laramie Tunsil trades. The draft capital for the Tunsil trade is not done just yet, but so far the early returns on these trades have not been promising at all. The Dolphins in 2019 traded their young, promising safety nickel cornerback hybrid and Minkah Fitzpatrick for the 18th overall pick in the 2020 draft. And looking back, the Dolphins selected Austin Jackson with that pick, who has been a bust so far. So you're looking at a Minkah Fitzpatrick for Austin Jackson swap, which is absolutely horrible for the Dolphins. And then the Dolphins traded away their star tackle in Laremy Tunsil in exchange for a multitude of day 1 and day 2 draft picks from the Houston Texans. And while at the time that trade was an absolute fleece, the Dolphins haven't really made the best selections with those picks. There have been 2 prominent selections so far as a result of the Laremy Tunsil trade. Those selections were the draft picks of Noah Igbenogany, who has amounted to not much of anything so far through his young NFL career, and Jalen Waddle, who at least through 5 games has been decent. And the Dolphins still have 1 more first-round selection as a result of that Tunsil trade. But you really have to sit here and figure if the Dolphins would feel a lot better about their situation if Laremy Tunsil was still their long-term left tackle. So ultimately, do I think Chris Grier should be let go as the general manager for the Miami Dolphins? Yes. Yes, I do. Assuming that Tua Tagovailoa is their franchise quarterback and is their guy for the future, I think a majority of their personnel decisions, front office decisions, and coaching staff decisions should be made in relation to their franchise quarterback just because he's that important. And given that Grier has failed to put together a competent offensive line in his 3 off seasons as the Dolphins' lead decision maker, I think he should ultimately be let go. So that's going to be it for today's video, guys. Like I always say, make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on that post notification bell so you do not miss a single video. Also, go ahead and comment down below if you think Chris Grier should be fired. With that being said, I will catch you later. Peace.